All right, thanks for staying with us here on CBS News. We want to bring you this update. A judge moments ago denied attorney Kenneth Chesebro's motion to be tried separately from other defendants he's been charged alongside there in Georgia.
The judge announced this decision today in the first televised hearing for the sweeping Georgia election interference case.
Now, as you may remember, lawyers for both Chesebro and Sidney Powell, you see him on the screen, they presented arguments to have their clients' cases tried individually. The judge has not yet issued a full decision for Powell's case.
Now, they are 2 of 19 total defendants charged in Fulton County who have all pleaded not guilty and waived their arraignment. All of them are accused of scheming to overturn the 2020 election results in Georgia. Prosecutors said today the trial against the 19 defendants would last approximately 4 months and include more than 150 witnesses.
Jessica Levinson is back with us now, CBS News legal contributor and a professor at Loyola Law School. Jessica, what do you make of the judge's decision to deny the motion to allow one of the defendants to separate their case?
I think what he's doing is he's looking at the RICO statute, he's looking at the applicable case law, and you heard him mention judicial economy. He's really saying, why do we want to try this over and over again? And what he's acknowledging really is that when it comes to a RICO case, an act by any of the defendants can essentially be used against another of the defendants. Now, when it comes to the case, I think the big question going forward, and this is the question that the judge had, is how can the prosecution possibly go forward at the end of next month with respect to 19 defendants? So he said, with respect to Kenneth Chesebro, no, you are not severed from Sidney Powell. With respect to Sidney Powell, he said, you are not severed from Kenneth Chesebro, but we will hear your request to be severed from the other 17. But let's remember, there are also those pending motions by Mark Meadows and others to remove this case up to federal court. So we have answers today in terms of the judge saying, I don't see the need for severance in this case. I'm worried about judicial economy. I'm worried about the jurors' time, and I don't see the factor satisfied here. But we also have a judge saying there's a lot of questions about what shape and form this case takes moving forward.
Jessica, what were the defense arguments in favor of severing the case, and what did the prosecution have to say about why it shouldn't be severed?
So the defense's main argument was these are 2 people who don't even know each other. They have nothing in common. And the facts alleged against them are completely separate. That in one case, when it comes to Chesebro, he was involved in an alternate elector scheme. When it comes to Sidney Powell, she was involved in efforts to overturn the election in Coffee County. And so why would you bring the same case against both of them, have jurors sit there and listen to allegations that don't relate to both of them? The prosecution's response was essentially, that's a RICO case. We've alleged a broad conspiracy. We've alleged a broad criminal enterprise, and you do not need every defendant to have engaged in the same behavior. In fact, that rarely happens. What you also heard from the prosecution is going down this multi-factor test and saying there's really no reason in the case law that you would sever these cases. They don't have, we heard, antagonistic defenses. In fact, they're not even going to say that they knew each other, that there shouldn't be jury confusion because the defenses already kind of admitted that these are very different cases. And so what they really said is, you're just worried that you're going to have the jurors sit there and that they will hear a bunch of bad things about, let's say, Sidney Powell, and they'll impute that onto Kenneth Chesebro. And the judge said, there are limiting jury instructions for that essentially that's not the law and that's not why you sever a case.
It seems as though that kind of RICO umbrella accusation is playing a major role here. We know that DA Fani Willis has successfully brought previous RICO cases there in Georgia, whether they are against teachers or rappers. It really does, and they would have expected some of the defendants, I would imagine, to appeal and want their cases tried separately. So now that we've seen the Judge McAfee's decision for Chesebro not to separate, what happens next? And I just want to throw out the possibility that, let's say, Mark Meadows doesn't get his wish in moving his case to a federal court. If everyone is tried together there in Georgia, what should we expect?
We should expect, I think, a very lengthy trial. They said 150 witnesses. There's going to be a lot of evidence. One of the big pieces of news that we garnered from today is that the prosecution said we estimate 4 months. I think what I heard is a judge that was a little skeptical of that, thought that this could actually run longer. Particularly, you have to add in a fairly rigorous jury selection process. So I think what we need to look for again is what happens with respect to the removal cases and what happens with respect to requests by other defendants to sever. And the big overarching question, of course, when it comes to the political calendar is how successful is the former president in delaying at least the case against him?
Jessica Levinson, thank you very much.
Thank you.